Hey everyone, and welcome to the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. I am your host, Anita Santiago. Please like, share, subscribe, and review the podcast on all the major platforms. Also, if you'd like to reach me, you can also always reach me at convoscws@gmail.com. We are past the equipment snafus and back on video. So, today's episode, I want to kind of expand on a topic that I talked about before. We're in this mode of productivity. It's 2025. We know that there are a lot of things going on in the world, but right now we're focusing on how can we get more out of our days, out of our lives. And so those are the topics I'm kind of floating with right now. So today I want to talk about social media and its impact on mental health and behavior. And one of the reasons I'm bringing that topic up is because we have so much going on in the world right now. We are literally being bombarded on social media sites, on news sites with so much information. It is really, really hard to manage it all. And considering that the average person spends about 2 to 3 hours or more on social media or consuming digital content, I think it's really important that we step back and um, take a look at how that impacts us individually, and for those that are parents or caregivers or have other people that you're responsible for. This is a topic, or this is something that you can also share with them. First, let's understand that there's a complexity with our relationship with social media. Social media can be a good thing. It can affect us positively or negatively. But that connection is something that we need to dig into a little bit and better understand. Not just saying that social media is negative or social media is bad, but really understanding what social media is and how we can leverage it as a tool. We'll also kind of go over some strategies for healthy social media use and anything else that I think of. So I did an episode a while back called Digital Detox, and that was in 2024. And that episode talked about our need for unplugging from the digital space and how doing that on a regular basis could be very positive. I'm going to expand on kind of the concept of social media mental health, digital detox being one tool that you can use to manage your digital consumption. So let's go ahead and break it down. Social media can be a very positive experience if you set it up that way. I also had an episode in 2024 that talked about how to set your social media up in a way that gives you the information that you're looking for. So, if I'm a person that's interested in a particular type of craft or art or music, I can construct my social media to deliver that content to me and not the other stuff that I don't want to see. So you can go back and look at listen to that previous episode that shows that talks about how to construct our social media experiences in a more positive way. So you can build community on social media. You can connect with others that are interested in what you're interested in. And you can connect with others. And that's pretty cool because if you're interested in something that's not common, this decreases the barriers for connection. In a positive way, social media can give you access to information and support. For example, there are people that suffer from certain illnesses or certain conditions or live in a certain type of environment, like I'm thinking Alaska, for example. So there's a lot of community support and information out there, based on a particular experience. And having access to that information can be really good. And I think one of the most common types of information is people relocating to X city. You know, I'm relocating to Houston or Dallas or New York or LA. What do I need to know? What are the neighborhoods? There's a lot of access to information. So, in that sense, social media can be good. And then, of course, the way that you can express yourself and really share with the world things that are important to you. Social media influencers, comedians, artists of all kinds use social media for self expression. So, in those aspects, social media can be very positive and very good. The negative aspects of social media come in a couple of different categories: comparison and envy. A lot of times, inadvertently, and this could happen with young people a lot, there's this need to compare ourselves, and that need to compare ourselves can have a negative a negative effect on our self-esteem. So instead of valuing what we have and what our good qualities are, we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. Cyberbullying and harassment, this is a big one, with adults and kids. There is a real psychological toll on those who experience this type of abuse and harassment. And we've seen viral incidents that have gotten really out of hand. Fear of missing out. This is I call it a marketing strategy that's often used to create this sense of, if you're not constantly connected, you're going to miss something really important. We see that with breaking news headlines that are used a lot, or some sense of urgency that's given to a particular story to create a sense that if you don't click on it right now, you're going to feel like you're missing out. There is research out there that's starting to look at behavioral 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 issues and social media and or internet use. It used to be that the concern was internet use and specifically video gaming. So when you had more elaborate game systems coming out, young people and adults spending more and more time playing video games, there was some real interest to start to look at if those individuals could possibly become addicted to internet and video games. And now we're adding to that social media. So if you look at some of the social media platforms, they can be very addictive. Why? Because you can get on there and literally spend hours scrolling and reading and scrolling and reading. And so there's some concerns about uh, being able to adequately manage our use of social media. Sleep and focus. If you had a hard day at work, you come home, you're dealing with kids homework, and it's finally the evening time. Maybe you don't pay for cable TV anymore, maybe you use your phone or your tablet, and maybe you're up till 1 or 2 o'clock playing Candy Crush. I will not uh, confirm or deny I do that. But disrupted sleep patterns due to scrolling, playing games, and just being on your phone is a real thing, and people are impacted by that. And then the relationship between excessive social media use and clinical mental health disorders or issues that a person may already be experiencing. For example, a person with clinical depression who may be on social media a lot and seeing things that make them feel more sad or more hopeless. In that way, social media is deepening their depressive symptoms. Or on the other side of that, if a person has anxiety and they worry a lot and they're seeing these news stories about the prices of eggs and what happened in a different in particular situations with world leaders, that worry can deepen And now that person's not just worrying about the things they were worrying about, they're worrying about all this stuff that they're seeing on social media. So, those 6 aspects um, that I just went over can create negative experiences around social media. And we have to really step back and look at how we are using our social media and if we can do anything to make it better. So, for example, if you are a person that is a comedian and you're using social media to showcase yourself, there's more than likely a chance that someone out there doesn't like you and they're going to post something mean or say something mean or maybe even be harassing in some sense. In that case, um, even though that negative part is happening, it doesn't have to derail the positive experience that you're creating for your followers in delivering a product. And I think we have to be really careful, especially for people who are influencers or use social media to showcase their own work. There's going to be negativity and there's going to be uh, things that are said or done, but there are also tools within your platforms that you can use to manage that. So even if you're doing something positive, it doesn't mean that there won't be a negative aspect of it. You can't control the internet, you can't control social media, but what you can do is understand why you're using social media, and you can create positive experiences for those people that you interact with. So, how is this episode different than the other ones I've done that talk about the digital space and digital detox? Well, what I want to highlight here is some ways that social media can really impact your mental health. So, let's start with social functioning. Um, if you have trouble feeling comfortable in social situations, social media can make that a whole lot worse. And what I mean by that is that people who are shy, are nervous, that don't feel comfortable being in front of others, can now have their symptoms expand due to what they experience on social media. Social media can make them more reluctant to want to be around people, more reluctant to be in social settings. Now, I understand that there are some of us that are cool with not being very social. You don't have to be a social butterfly. And I think on many levels, many people struggle with feeling comfortable in social situations. The constant exposure to social media can really impact someone's self esteem and make it harder for them to get more comfortable. So, if you find yourself already not really preferring to be very social, and you notice that you're on social media a lot and now you really, really don't want to be social, that's something to look at. That's something to look at. Maybe a digital detox would be good for you. So you can just step back and get away from the social media platforms and work on the things that will help you be more comfortable in social settings. Let's talk about ADHD. So we know that diagnostic rates of ADHD have skyrocketed over the years. We know that many more people, adults and children, are becoming aware that either they have ADHD or they have a lot of symptoms that present like ADHD. So, being inattentive and hyper, those are the 2 types of ADHD. You can have inattentive, or you can be hyper, or you can have a combination of both. So, how does social media impact those symptoms? When you're constantly bombarded with ads and links and stories and videos, the impulsivity that you have when you struggle with ADHD symptoms, you're more likely to just start randomly clicking on stuff. You're not thinking about, is this a virus and it's going to blow my phone or my tablet or my laptop up, you're just clicking, you're just indiscriminately bouncing around all over the place. And if you're inattentive, you might stay on that story 2 seconds and pop over to the next one and pop over to the next one. And then you could get into this endless experience of doom scrolling. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Look at how negative this space is, and look at these negative stories. And the next thing you know, 2 or 3 hours have gone by. And now uh, you've spent all this time on social media, and it's made your um, things that you struggle with in an ADHD way a little bit more challenging. So if you struggle with ADHD symptoms and you notice that you're on social media a lot, you're on your phone, you're on your devices a lot, again, maybe stepping back and giving yourself a time limit every day will help prevent that from becoming worse. One thing that has been covered in some of the trainings I've been in lately is body image and disordered eating, because we're constantly bombarded with unrealistic pictures or stereotypes of what we should look like. And so for people who struggle with how they're shaped and how they look and their eating, being on social media a lot where you're seeing people that are size 0, size 2 can really make that experience much more difficult. If you're already struggling with your body image and self-esteem, it's very likely you may not eat properly. You may eat too little, you may eat too much. Um, the beauty standards that are pushed out by beauty companies, fashion houses, is just not realistic. And in that space, it's hard to find support for being a normal person that's not model quality, model ready. Um, so we want to understand, or we want to acknowledge that, yes, in the digital spaces, these unrealistic beauty standards can be problematic for those people who struggle with their body image or struggle with eating or both. Another area that's concerning when it comes to heavy social media use is what I mentioned before, internet addiction and gambling. You could also throw video games in there, because in the beginning, like when Facebook first came around, which was a long time ago, we were on there playing games. Farmville and Candy Crush, and the games were the draw to the social media platforms. The problem with the heavy use of social media is you may find a game that you really like, and now you got to play it all the time, and you're playing at work, and you're playing on break, you're playing at the red light when your car is stopped. I'm not saying anybody's doing that, I'm just saying hypothetically speaking. So this is something to be aware of. And with kids, there is some research out there that explores the possibility that the online games that are created for kids actually create like a dopamine effect. So it makes the kids feel good, and they want to play more, and they want to have more access to that, to the point where you take the tablet away. Parents, have you experienced that with your little kiddos? When you've taken the tablet away and they have a complete fit, as though they cannot do without playing that game, that could be an indication that they're getting too much screen time. If you find that behaviorally your children are fall into that category, set time limits. Maybe during school year, there are no devices or games during the week, and you let the kids have those devices on the weekend. Something to manage the access. Unfortunately, I feel like electronic devices have taken the place of the television. So in prior generations, when parents were really busy, they sat their kids in front of the television. That switched over to the tablet and the phone. There are a lot of kids that have their own tablet. So if this is of concern to you as a parent, really consider using parental controls and other options that are out there to limit screen time. Now, if you're an adult and you find yourself constantly playing games, like you just can't break away, hours and hours of playing games, maybe that's something to take stock of and ask yourself, well, is this interfering with other things that I need to be doing on a daily basis? This mode that we're in right now is we're focusing on improving ourself and improving our productivity. So if you've got housework to do or yards to cut or something, are these games that you're playing or the internet time that you're spending getting in the way of you getting things done that really need to get done? And if that's the case, that's a time to acknowledge that and pull back a little bit and get help if you need to. If you're trying to decrease your screen time and you literally can't do it as an adult, talk to somebody about it. There's no shame in that, because what you want to do is make sure that something that is pleasurable and supposed to be fun hasn't turned into an actual addiction. There's also some concerns about social media and the whole concept of uh, self harm, especially when it comes to cyberbullying. We've seen um, children taking their lives on a scale that's just unprecedented and increasing. And there have been many people calling attention to this phenomena of children being bullied and maybe harming themselves or thinking of harming themselves. Pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention to those, your loved ones who may be social media influencers or deal with digital spaces a lot, and understand that they might be under tremendous amount of pressures that they don't talk about. We don't want to see anyone in that situation where they are thinking of harming themselves, but I will tell you that that probably happens a lot more than we would like to admit. So be a good listener, be a good supporter, and reach out to people if you feel like they may be struggling with screen time and the impact of that on themselves. So that was a little heavy, but I wanted to give the connection between mental health and social media, because a lot of times we just say social media is bad, I don't want to be on it. But making the connection and drawing the dots, I think, really helps us understand like how we can deal with it if this is a situation in our lives. Now, on the flip side of that, how can we create strategies to use social media in a healthy way? The first one I'm going to say is setting time limits and boundaries. For adults and children, the, a lot of the phones now, whether they're Android or iPhone, will allow you to set limits within the settings for different sites like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Use time limits, set boundaries, give yourself a limited time to interact with social media every day. If you're an influencer, that may not be realistic because that's the nature of being an influencer. Or if you use social media to showcase your profession, that might not be a realistic expectation. But give yourself a break, give yourself appropriate breaks, detox, unplug when it makes sense for you. The second biggest thing that you can do to create a healthy social media experience is create the content that you want to consume or manage the content that you want to consume. Use hashtags, use searches so that the content that comes up in your stream is what you actually want to see. I use this example often in my episodes, but when I started my fitness journey, I unfollowed a lot of people and then I only followed people that were actively working on their health. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, maybe you have a trade that you do, follow those people that are related to that, and you're going to see content that's more relevant to you, which is going to create a more positive experience. If you're a high schooler and you play soccer or basketball, follow other people that are into what you're into. If you're in the crafts, you create things, music, follow those types of accounts. And slowly you will see your content change, and your content is going to be more relevant and more positive. Use your social media to build real life connections. Don't let all your connections just be online. Find opportunities to meet people in person, or connect in person, or connect at events. It's good to have a balance of both social media, digital interactions, and real life interactions where that's possible. As I mentioned before, if you feel like you struggle with your screen time, you struggle with limiting screen time for your kids, it feels like it's out of control, find a therapist. Use your employee assistance program. Use your resources. Find someone that you can talk to that can help you go deeper and understand not only how this became a problem, but how you work your way out of it. And parents, don't be afraid to use parental controls and set time limits for your kids so that they're not totally consumed with their scrolling or social media experiences. Balance is the key word here. Balancing your social media habits, balancing your access to digital content. Um, Balance is the key word. And if you take some of these things into consideration and you create that balance, you'll have a much more positive social media experience. I want to throw out for the listeners some some resources that you may find helpful as far as finding support or therapists. Uh, NAMI is a big organization that it does a lot of great work. The National Alliance on Mental Illness. You can contact their website and you can find resources and help for a lot of different things. There are crisis hotlines that you can access that also may be an option if you feel like your social media consumption is out of control. And there are also um, online directories that help you find therapists or counselors, and of course, your employee assistance program and referrals from friends and families who know someone who can be helpful. So here's your challenge. I want you to reflect on your social media use, how much time you spend a day, maybe do a weekly log to see really how much time you're spending on social media. And if it's out of control or you don't feel good about it, make a change. You are empowered to create digital experiences that work for you. And that just requires a little bit of intentionality and a little bit of balance. So you got this. I don't want you guys to stop consuming digital content because I want you to keep coming back. But I do want you to feel empowered to manage it. I don't want you to feel like there's nothing you can do about how you consume digital content and what your social media experiences are online. So thank you so much for stopping by the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. Again, please, please, please like, share, subscribe, and review the podcast on all platforms. As always, I appreciate every fan, listener, and supporter. And until we talk again, happy listening.